And the particular motherboard that I'm using today is the by Asus. It's the P6X58DE model, and it's still an Intel chipset, and you can tell that by the X58 right here. The rest of it, the P6 and the DE, that's all Asus branding, right? So this particular motherboard right here is a very good motherboard. And all right, so the processor that I'm using is the Intel Core i7 processor. This particular one is the i7-950, and like I said, it's the LGA socket 1366. Really good processor, 3.6 gigahertz and 8 megabyte cache, 130 watts. It's a quad core processor, but it also has the hyperthreading, which is like 4 more virtual cores, giving you a total of 8 cores. So it's 4 physical, but 8 threads. So you should see like 8 cores going along. All right, so let's see what else. The memory, it's a triple channel memory. Socket 1366 takes a triple channel memory right here, right? It's a G-Skill. It's pretty standard. DDR3 1600. That's the speed. It's a PC3 12800. Right, so there's 6 gigs there. And the graphics card is the MSI 450 GTS. And we have a Cooler Master 650 watt power supply. You want at least a 500 watt power supply for this particular CPU, quad core, and the graphics and all in the motherboard and whatnot. And then we have standard hard drive. This is a Seagate SATA 1.5 terabyte hard drive, 7200 RPM. You want at least a 7200 RPM as your main drive. And then a SATA burner, just your standard DVD burner, nothing special. It's not Blu-ray or anything like that. And the cooler over the air is this Cooler Master V8. This is a beast of a cooler right there. And then the case is the Cooler Master CM Storm. Pretty standard, or not standard, but pretty popular amongst the gamers and whatnot. It's got a cool handle up on top. We'll be checking that out later. So I'm actually going to show a video of me building this, and the reason why I'm able to talk more about the parts is that my YouTube account now has a longer allotment of time, so I can put up more than 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to be as thorough as possible, technical wise, as well as I'm going to show you how to build this system. Not everyone's going to have the same parts and whatnot, but you should be able to get the gist of it. All right, so we'll get to building the system now, and thanks for watching. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is prep the motherboard. I'm going to install the memory, the CPU, and the CPU fan first. I like to do this outside of the case because it's a lot easier to work with rather than trying to fit everything inside of the case. It's pretty dangerous. You might end up dropping something or bumping your hand and dropping something or breaking it. All right, so let's go through our parts here. First we have the SATA cables. There's 4 SATA cables there. Next is the I/O input-output panel. There, it's nice and padded. Right, and then we got the triple SLI connector. We don't really be needing this. I don't run 3-way SLI. Right, next is the, what is this? The SLI connector. Then you got your manual and installation disc and badge. Then this right here, this is pretty cool. It's the jumper cables, pins. So it makes it easier. You plug in all of your case stuff, cables into here, and then you just plug this into the motherboard. It makes it a lot easier, and that's really cool. That's really helpful. Right, now on to the motherboard. What I like to do is usually take this out, and what I'll do is I'll actually use the box as a base because the box is nice and soft and it's non-conductive. Normally you want to be grounded for this. I am disregarding all proper procedures and protocols by doing this barehanded like this without grounding myself first. And I think for demonstration purposes, this should suffice. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is install the RAM. We'll save the best for last. So here's the RAM. So I'm going to pop this open. We'll set it aside for now. Okay. Now you don't want to handle these like this. You don't want to put your fingers here because the chips underneath are very delicate. They make them a lot more durable nowadays, but you still can't be too careful. So on the motherboard here, this is triple channel memory, meaning it has to run in threes. So you have to follow the color coding here. So you see that there's 3 blacks and 3 light blues. So you'll need to actually put them in a specific order, and this particular motherboard. Alright, so the instructions is telling me that I need to install it on A1, B1, and C1. So you can read this by looking at the A1, how it's underneath the A2. So the top one is A2, this bottom one is A1, and so you can assume that the second blue one is B1, and that's what it says right there, and then the third blue one is C1. So follow the instructions, and this particular motherboard is saying A1, B1, and C1. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the slot here, then you're going to find the slot on the memory chip, and you're going to line it up and slide it in to the guides and go straight down. Until you hear a click. Until the little 2 tabs on the side here click in. Alright, so I'll do the same thing for the second slot. And again for the third. Alright, so now we've installed the RAM. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the CPU. First, open the lever. Then you're going to open the door. Then you have to remove this protective plate here. Just pull straight out. That's a protective plate. Set that aside. And we're going to open up our CPU box. We're going to take out our CPU. Be very careful. There's our CPU fan. Set that aside. is our CPU. Alright, so what you're going to look for on the motherboard are these two little notches or little dimples that are coming out right there. And then on the chip itself, there's a couple of notches right here and here. Right, and what you're going to do is you're going to line it up, use your fingertips, drop it in gently. Okay, so now that it's installed, you're going to close the latch and lock it down. There is a little bit of force required for this. And we're good. Next, we're going to apply the CPU fan. It already has some thermal grease on it, and this is the stock CPU fan. Alright, so this is a little bit tricky. What you got to do is you're going to strategically place this so that the connector can connect to the CPU fan connector on the motherboard here, which is right here. So this seems like a good spot for it. What you'll do is you'll set it down gently onto the motherboard, lining up with the holes. What you'll do is press down on each one of these till you get a click. Then you're going to take the connector, you're going to plug it into the motherboard. And there's really only one way to do it because it's slotted for it to fit one way. And that's it. Pretty much we're done with setting up the motherboard. We're not going to put the graphics card in yet. We have to put that while the motherboard is inside the case. Next, we're going to prep the case. Alright, now time for the unboxing of the CM Storm. Now look, I know what you're thinking. I'm not wearing the same clothes I wore in the first half of the video. Trust me, it bugs me more than it bugs you. But I don't have time to be working day and night on these systems. I gotta squeeze them in whenever I can. I just got out of work, so bear with me. This particular case is a very popular case amongst the enthusiasts because it has a handle up on top, which is kind of cool. You don't want to watch the unboxing, go ahead and skip this part. There's nothing fancy about it. These are for the folks who, for some reason, enjoy watching unboxing. Alright, there it is right there. Cooler Master CM Storm. This is a very nice looking case. Got ourselves here. Pretty empty case. And now I'm going to change camera angles. Okay, so now we're going to prep the case. We're going to start by taking off all of the panels. Okay, so here is the case. These are the parts that it comes with that you'll be needing. It's going to be stuff like the hard drive mounts, window base things and screws, and the standoffs. Okay, we'll go through that in a little bit. Let's talk about the case. This case has a little paper panel inside that tells you what kind of motherboard you got and where you got to place the screws. And then there's also a CPU replacement, cooler replacement cutout here. This is really good for when you want to upgrade your stock cooling or upgrade your cooling fan. And a lot of the beefier fans like this one which we'll be installing after our build, requires a back plate. And instead of having to take off the motherboard and install the back plate, you can actually just install the back plate right here through this little window. And I'll show you that after we get everything installed. I know that I installed the stock cooling in there, but I just wanted to show how to install a stock cooling, and then I'll show you how to install the upgraded cooling, this beast right here, the V8 Cooler Master. Right, so here are the connections that you need. You can untie that, and I'm just going to go ahead and go through installing the power supply first, which is here. I'm going to open this up. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is install the input-output shield. Crack this baby open. And it goes on this back panel right here. And typically the two ports up here are for the keyboard and mouse. I don't know why we still use PS2, but it's there in any case. What you're going to do is just pop this in like so. It may take some finagling. Make sure you get a good angle on it. Alright, so before we drop the motherboard in, we have to install these standoffs. Now it's really important that you use these standoffs. You can't use just the bare motherboard itself. One, it won't line up with the I/O port. Two, you will short out the motherboard because this is conductive. So, because I know we have a ATX case, I need to follow these letters. So what I'm going to do is, now I add the standoffs into each corresponding letters for ATX. Okay, so now that we got our standoffs in, what we can do is remove now that we have a motherboard, you're going to go at it at an angle. You're going to want to hold it securely. You'll just drop it in, line up the holes with the input-output shield. Alright, so now I'm going to screw in the motherboard, and for this particular application it's good to have a magnetic screwdriver because it's easier to get your hand in there to screw in the motherboard screw. Now, if I don't have a magnetic screwdriver, what I usually like to do is just hold it with my fingertip like this, and what I'll do is I'll drop it in there. So this is the 24 pin plug, and you're going to line it up, plug it into this notch right here, and if you notice that there's a little clip, and that's going to go into the notch that's on the plug. Clip that in, and we're good. Alright, so next is the P2 and the P3 plug. And the reason why they're broken up is because some motherboards only require one. This one, on the other hand, requires both, and it goes right up on top of there, right by the fan. So line these up with the two little clips on it. Plug them in. Alright, so now we're going to plug in the front panel buttons. And remember this little deal here? This is where you got your ground, power LED, reset, power, and hard drive LEDs. And then once you plug it all into here, you're going to plug it into this piece right here. Right there. Alright, so first we'll go with the power LEDs and the plus. This is the plus right here. There's a little plus sign next to it. Hopefully you can see that. Let's plug that in. Then the minus. Plug that in. And keep doing the same thing for the rest. Now for these that are already together, on the back here you'll see a little arrow, and that indicates it's the plus. So then line up that little arrow with the plus sign here, and you're good. Next we'll plug in the USB. Okay. So now that we got it all plugged in, what we're going to do is line everything up with this pins right here. And so it's slotted like a key. So you'll see that there's one missing, one of the pins missing there, and it's going to be this one right here. So just line it up how you see it on here with this. And be very careful, because if you get it wrong, you're going to bend one of the pins. Alright, so it should fit snugly like that. Next we'll do the USB and the audio. So find where it says USB on your motherboard, and it's keyed. So there's one little slot missing there. On the motherboard, there's also a little slot missing. So you'll line that up. It'll fit in just nicely. Next is the HD audio. That is typically located on the back here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this part right here, which is keyed. Next is the HD audio. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the part that's keyed here, and on this motherboard happens to be right here. What you'll do is plug this in. And you're good to go. Okay, so here's our hard drive that we're going to install, and for this we need the brackets that comes supplied with your case. We'll install those like so. And you can just slide them in like that. Okay, so now we're going to install the graphics card. So what you're going to do is you're going to get the card very carefully. Line it up with the slot. And it'll go in nice and easy. Close the little tabs. You can also screw them in. That's always best. Alright, so now that we got the graphics card installed, next we're going to plug in the power for it. And we need this 6-pin power adapter with the optional extra 2 pins for the 8 pins. These are for the big video cards, but we don't need that for this. So what you're going to do is this motherboard, or this video card right here, has the power connection here. Just go ahead and plug that in. Alright, so that's pretty much all there is to it. This is bone stock right here. Everything that you need to get things going. We're going to power it up. Hope that everything is plugged in alright. Okay, now that we got everything plugged in, we're ready to power this puppy up for the moment of truth. Here goes nothing. Alright, everything turns on okay. We still have to check if everything's booting, but this is just to make sure that the fan and everything's running, everything kicks on okay, we don't get any weird beeps, no weird random restarts, and to make sure that there's no cable hitting any of the fans and everything's clear. There's definitely much more cable management that you could be doing here, but this is just a basic general start on getting things going. Next, we're actually going to install our operating systems.